It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, today I want to jump on the Sharp Interactive board. And folks, my last slide is a tip for all of my dealer friends that sell supply and service print equipment. I thought of something I want to share with you all that I think might help you understand more where your customers are going. So over the last few months, we've seen the meetings starting to ramp up. You know, I did a video with my friend Gary Lavin, who owns CEO Juice, and said, hey, Gary, you're going to this IT Nation thing. You know, I want to go with you. Let's talk about that a little bit. And I'm waiting for that meeting. It's coming up in a few weeks. But folks, you know, we got to start looking at new places. We got to start exploring the unknown, and we all get it. I've been talking about that for a long time. But I'm looking at some of the headlines coming out around the tech sector, and these headlines are just not good. And these headlines are proving to me that the dealers really have to move upstream. They really have to figure out how to get into their B2B customers, do this B2B business, if you will, in a different way. They have to change the game. Everybody gets it. Unfortunately, I don't see how they're setting on a path to change the game. There's a couple of them that are, but at the end of the day, it looks to me like it's still 1990 for the most part inside that channel. And I want to share my thoughts on some things today, and hopefully these thoughts will help you discover something that everybody else might be missing, if you will. So the first thing I want to do is I want to share a couple of headlines I've seen out there. So new cars are finally back in stock, but Americans might not be able to afford them. And I think you could say the same across the world. Okay? So we got interest rates going up, and these are some of the reasons. Federal Reserve keep raising the hike. We're looking at a recession coming down the road. I mean, folks, there's a lot of issues. So we're all waiting for the supply chain issues to be resolved in the print sector, but I think we're going to end up just like the auto sector. We're going to get the supplies, we're going to get all those big giant A3 machines, and at the end of the day, nobody's really going to want them. And if we go out in the marketplace and try to put them out there, what we're going to do is end up going into some kind of vendor auction, and we're going to be giving them all away anyway. It's not a good picture because supply versus demand is way out of whack in our industry. You know, recently, Enrique Lores was on the closing bell, and look at this headline. The percentage of people back to the office is lower than 50%, and here to stay, says HP CEO. HP doesn't believe we're ever going to go back to more than 50% of the people in the office, and I think he's probably right there. It's probably one of the things I agree with Enrique on. But folks, this is huge. But here's the reality. What this is saying is that we got to be able to live with the workers being remote. If we're service providers to the B2B space, we have to understand the remote worker. But here's where I still argue. It doesn't matter the percentage that go back to the office. I think this is a totally distracting number, whether it's 50%, 20%, or 10%. If a company decides to have a remote workforce, then it has to build its business processes to accommodate that remote workforce. That's just the fact of life. And the reality of it is, whether a company has 90% of their people in the office, they're still going to develop processes to be able to work remote because they already witnessed what happens when you have a global shutdown caused by a pandemic. They want to be prepared to be able to work from anywhere. And I get it. There's a lot of places that you can't just work from home, okay? So let's just filter that out for a second. But a lot of the businesses that my friends that sell supply and service print equipment to could have a whole lot of their employees working remote. And for the industry that sells and supplies and service print equipment, it's extremely important that they figure out how they're going to deliver services into that marketplace, because we all know that print is just not that important. We can fool ourselves still, but if we really think about it, we realize it's not that important to the end user. So we have to make some changes. But folks, Intel planning thousands of job cuts. Thousands of job cuts from Intel, and the reason is that PC and notebook shipments are down. The only one that had any growth at all in the third quarter was Apple. They had a 40% growth. Maybe it's because of the Apple infrastructure. You know, I'm just thinking that could be it. You know, the commodity of just a notebook is probably not going to be very good long term, right? So Apple might have something there. But folks, this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and it's going to put more pressure on our friends over at HP. It's going to put pressure on Dell. It's going to put pressure on Lenovo. It's going to put pressure. We got to change the game. We got to do things a little bit different. I put this slide together here, and I call it infrastructure at the top, and I want to go down to the bottom. It says, it's not about products. It's about a managed platform. And we need to have a managed platform for our customers, whatever that is. I think about my friends over at Impact, the cooler on the ground there, and Impact's doing some cool things. But when I look at their managed marketing platform, their managed services platform, their managed print platform, they're building platforms to help manage the infrastructure of their clients. In their managed IT space, they're moving upstream. They're doing compliance, and they're going where those end users need more sophistication, where those end users are willing to pay for expertise. Hanging around in the lower end of the marketplace is not going to work, and that's sad because a lot of my friends that sell supply and service print equipment, most of their customer base is at the lower end. It's at the lower end, you're providing them print equipment. And those lower end customers are going to get offered those services around IT and those services around cybersecurity in ways that you're never going to be able to compete with. That's why you got to move upstream. But folks, think about your customers. They got a company and they got a remote worker. So the company now is built with processes to accommodate a remote workforce. That's every customer out there. Eventually, that's where we're going to be, right? What do they need if they're remote? They need a smartphone. How many dealer friends of mine could literally manage their entire business off their smartphone? I know you all can. I've talked to some of you. Seriously. You're not looking at Excel spreadsheets anymore. You're looking at it digested down to a dashboard. You can remote right in with your phone and look at your PSA tool, right? Seriously, folks, you know what's going on with your business. You know your accounts receivable. You know your accounts payable. You know what money hit the bank. You could go to your bank and check. You can run your business from your smartphone. And you might have to sit at your desk or your PC or your notebook to type out a long letter to somebody. But other than that, there's so much being done on a smartphone, it's a little bit scary for a whole lot of equipment manufacturers, in my opinion. It should be really scary. How many people are using their smartphone more than they're using their notebook for business? That's a question everybody should be asking, right? How many people use their smartphone more during business than they use their notebook or their laptop? And folks, the smartphone, maybe it's going to be, the little bit bigger piece, the iPad, okay? Maybe it'll be a small notebook, but that's all we need. The remote worker's not going to get a bunch of print business. We've already talked about that. They don't want to print. Biggest disruption in the workflow. We need to be able to manage their information, their security. And yeah, we're going to sell some laptops and notebooks. But folks, that's the root of it, right? This isn't a bunch of equipment going into clients. This is a managed platform. These clients are going to be buying our expertise. These clients are going to be buying our help so they can be compliant. That's where the money's going to be. It's not going to be in chasing a commodity and trying to be cheaper than the guy that came in before you or the gal that came in before you. It's a whole different game, and we got to get there. We got to get there soon. So I want to ask everybody a question. I put this slide together. Are you all on the same mission? Disruption, innovation, diversification, because that's the buzzwords we hear. We hear a lot of these buzzwords. I talked about this before. Adjectives without zero substance. I love the people that'll post something, show a bunch of people sitting on stage and say, what a fantastic event. What a fantastic dealer panel. But there's absolutely nothing about what was so fantastic about it to share with our friends. And so I'm thinking that we've really taken these buzzwords to a level of absurdity. We love to say that we're disruptive. We love to say that we're innovative. We love to say that we're in a diversification track. But yet when we get together, we're all exactly the same. I got this box here with all the white circles. That's our industry. Let's just stay in the box. Even though we talk about the fact that we want to get out of the box, we're not going to have any blue dots in here. We don't want any green dots in here. Just keep the dots that we're comfortable with. And let's all get together and talk about diversification, disruption, and innovation. This is upsetting. And this is why industries completely die. This is why industries just fade away into complacency and obsolescence. Because they won't look where they've never looked before, or they won't engage what threatens them. They double down on yesterday or status quo. And so here's the slide I want everybody to pay attention to. Because folks, I believe that your dealership should have a vertical summit, I call it. A vertical summit. And I was very impressed when I went to the Impact Network Optimize event that they held in August at the Navy Pier in Chicago. And they brought in end users, and they had breakout groups, and those end users were talking about their needs, their results with some of the services. It was about the end users talking to prospects and customers in different breakout groups. It was an education platform, not just for those end users, but an education platform for who? For Impact Networking and Impact Networking's associates. What better place to learn about the future? What better place to understand where your customers are going than actually have conversations with your customers and ask them where the hell they're going? And when I look at our friends today, I'm thinking to myself, are we meeting and getting together just to pacify outdated egos? Or are we really meeting so that we can learn and explore where our customers are going? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this vertical summit, I'm thinking, you all have manufacturing customers, finance customers, healthcare customers, education, local schools, as well as higher ed. Bring these people in and talk to them. Focus on a vertical at a time. When was the last time you brought in CEOs from manufacturing companies, sat them in your conference room, and had a powwow? Had a lunch and learn where you actually were learning from them. You weren't spewing up and trying to get them in your demo room. Let's spend the money on your own dealership and seek the information that'll help your business. Because quite honestly, I think we're doing it backwards. I think we're going to events and we're trying to learn about the future of the business, if you will. But who are we learning that from? Look, there's nothing wrong with your OEM sharing where they're going and how they're going to help you. But you got to remember, your OEM, you're the customer. Okay? You're the OEM, you are the OEM's customer, and that OEM just wants you to buy product from them. Let's be honest. That's what they do, just like you want your end users to buy product from you. But folks, those dealer friends of mine, you're the last place before the end user. It's up to you. You're the last place before the end user. It's up to you to make sure you're going where those customers are going. And sometimes the OEMs, and sometimes the distributors, and sometimes the software companies, well, they can get a little bit scared when they realize what they have to offer might not be where the customer's going. They can get a little biased. And so it's up to you, those dealers. Go to the customer, spend the money, put on a summit, bring them in, talk to them. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope today's episode was a little bit of education for you, because everybody watching me knows this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.